Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to our weekly session. We occasionally have issues with our YouTube connections at times, and I apologize for that. It simply is where we are in the world. So good to see everyone joining. Thank you for the amazing level of support that you have provided, the encouragement and the appreciation for what the Flame Center has tried to provide over these rather trying months. So as anticipated, if you remember, maybe a month ago or something, we anticipated by the end of June, early July, we will start hearing about the new lockdowns. We will start hearing about the second wave, and so and on cue. Here we are now with some cities in considering a second lockdown. So this constant stress really has huge impact on us, as we've always been consistent in our understanding and what we try to communicate with you. And it's important to maintain a level of perspective on what's as hard as what is going on, or at times it seems and insecure. We will only realize the benefit of what we've gone through once some of this starts to settle down, and that's unlikely yet for certainly for the foreseeable future, certainly the next 6-12 months. But in the sort of relatively short term, the energy will be, as we anticipate, be quite high. We hope to, we anticipate new kinds of exposure coming through to do with politicians, to do with banking, to do with those kind of elements. And why do we expect this? Is because more and more individuals are starting to question their own ethical space and what's going on around them. And so I know for my own experience of speaking to a number of medics around the country that there are some really serious questions about this whole panic-damic, scam-damic, plan-damic. There are so many different variations of it, but it's not clear-cut. It's not, what's on the table ain't clear-cut. So as more and more individuals wake up, and why are we waking up, right? So let's look at it this way. So nothing remains the same. We go through these energetic shifts. These energies are energies from space. These energies are that shift our perceptions, that shift our way of thinking, and therefore it's not something that we can prevent. It's inevitable. This is inevitable. We cannot prevent this. We're going to go through this, whether you go screaming, or whether you go laughing, or whether you go indifferent. So this is a process that has been generated, and it's a kind of frequencies, vibration, and consciousness that yet has to be explored. It's too early to explore these kind of concepts yet, because we need some more science to catch up with this understanding. So how do we prevent our health from being impacted? Well, we reduce stress. That's your meditation. We reduce fear. That's part of the meditation. We reduce the anger, part of the meditation. We exercise mental immunity. We don't allow that propaganda rubbish to go through our consciousness and infect or pollute our way of thinking. And we don't, and we exercise emotional immunity. What does that mean? That means with mental immunity, which is the foundation of emotional immunity, we begin to look at things with a compassionate eye. So now, today, I want to spend a little bit of time, if I can, on how can we ease this position? How can we make this situation easier? How can we Uh, how can we enable the whole transition to be smooth? Well, one of the things that we spoke about a few weeks back was to do with acceptance. Today, I'd like to focus on attachment, right? Now, attachments are really worth exploring. And there is even an attachment theory out there to do with child development. And attachments are necessary in order for us to develop relationships, etc., in the early stages. However, attachments actually become the source of our suffering. And the source of our suffering, why is attachment source of our suffering, is because we create a bond with it. We create a bond with it. We get attached to things. We get attached to things. We get attached to people. At the moment, people are so attached to their mobile phones, not realizing that they are being influenced through the frequencies, through their eyes, in terms of their moods as well. So attachment is, so what is the definition of attachment? The definition of attachment that we can work with is a desire to hold something, believing it to be a permanent state. So wanting to keep something exactly the way it is. I never wanted to change. I always wanted this to be this. It's a desire. So attachments don't take place with our physical body. Attachments are psychological. They're psychological. We make attachments with our parents. We take attachments with our caregivers. We even make attachments with our abusers. And therefore, we have such attachment now with the politicians, for argument's sake, or that we believe it to tell us everything that he tells us must be the truth. So attachment creates a level of what I would call security within yourself, or the feeling of security. Because the ego, the sense of self, the ego knows within itself that it's actually a figment of its own imagination. Okay? In other words, it's like the shadow. However, in order for it to create a sense of permanency, a sense of stability, it creates attachments. So the ego isn't a fixed thing, it's a dynamic thing, right? So it's constantly forming attachments with TV, attachments with personalities, attachment with certain kinds of music, attachments with family, attachments with the clothes that you wear, attachments with how you need to be seen, attachment to your youth, attachment to your partner, attachment to your house, to your wealth, attachment to your lifestyle. So this attachment, the source of this attachment is, as Guru Nanak tells us, Trishna Vadda Rog Laga. That this attachment, this desire, once we have created a attachment through this desire of permanency, even though it may be very subtle, that generates craving. So we never want to let it go. There's a kind of a clinging to it, wanting it. And if it's in any way compromised, it creates a level of insecurity within us. And this really is the basis of our suffering. So our suffering, the very essence, the very root of our suffering when I mean psychological suffering, is because there are very few words within English that I can use to describe this state. There are states that, for example, the word duk and the word sukh. And what this means is duk. If one was to say, well, what duk represents, it can represent a kind of an emotional space, it can represent a mental state, it can represent a physical space. So there are different ways of describing duk. So duk is Trishna Vadda Rog Laga. So this desire to hold on for permanency then generates this craving. And whenever that which you are attached to, whatever it is, that what you're attached to, it could be a race, it could be a religion. I mean, people are attached to their religions and they'll kill other people because of their attachment. That's all it is. So attachment generates this level of insecurity in that if that attachment is compromised, that you will feel a loss. So, how do we work with attachment? Well, detachment is no different from attachment because it's just the opposite. Okay, let's explain it another way. Someone who is a smoker, once they give up their smoking, they then get attached to the idea that one should not smoke. So at one stage, they would defend the idea, oh, smoking is okay. And as soon as they've given it up, they will then start evangelizing why it's wrong to smoke. The same is with individuals who change their diet. We find this particularly with individuals who have kind of gone into a new religion, or even vegans at times can become very violent in their expression. That at one level, it is because of the violence and the aggression and the care and the compassion for animals that one may change their diet. But on the other hand, that same anger then is expressed against others who may not have had that understanding yet. So you can see how attachment and detachment are actually just two sides of the same coin because both of them need effort. Both of them need effort. Attachment needs effort, detachment needs effort. So, how do we learn to let go? How do we learn to develop an understanding in which we shift this awareness, which is to do with holding on, which is to do with clinging, which is to do with insecurity? How do we change that? Well, if we were to change that, we can do that through a number of ways, but sometimes there are massive events that may take place in life. Near death experience is one, having an illness sometimes is another. Life events can help us shift this attitude. But if we wanted to do it without that, how do we do it? Well, Guru Nanak, again, I will only use the wisdom of the traditions that I know and that which I try and practice in my own worldview, is that once we begin to recognize that everything is impermanent, everything is impermanent, everything is temporary, there is nothing that you can hold on to, nothing. So once we realize this, we realize that there are two sources of this attachment. That one is that we have this illusion, that things are permanent. We have this illusion that things will remain permanent or will always be the same. And the other illusion that we have is that by creating these attachments, somehow we will feel secure. We will have security. Unfortunately, my friends, as the world passes by, as you begin to notice the changing nature of all that surrounds you, you begin to realize that there is nothing that you can hold on to. And once you realize there's nothing you can hold on to, the second realization that one may dawn on is that you yourself are impermanent in terms of this particular 3D reality that you occupy at the moment. That you too are impermanent. Now, if you are impermanent, then what's the point of holding on? What's the point of clinging to things? What do you think you will achieve out of this? Apart from a lot of heartache, a lot of hardship, trying to hold on. And this is where we are in our transition now. And the transition that we are moving into now, as the phase of July, we come into the month of July, is a one of, as we said right at the start, it's a paradigm change. And a paradigm change means that when you look back, maybe in say 2 or 6 months' time, you will question, did we ever live like that? Did we ever live like that? So, as we move into this position, it's a great realization to begin to recognize the changing nature of all existence and to recognize the changing nature of yourself through your breath. Your very breath is your teacher, and it's telling you, if you listen to it, it's telling you that it is constantly changing. And not is it just constantly changing, but the process of life and death is taking place in this very moment. So it is not something to be anticipated. So again, impermanence, impermanence. And by recognizing impermanence, so we then begin to recognize, well, okay, everything is changing, but is it just changing willy-nilly? Is it just changing chaotically? No. Everything has an order of change, an order of change. So the seed changes into the plant changes into leaves and buds, the buds change into flowers, the flowers change into fragrance and color, and that changes into fruit, and the fruit becomes a seed. There is a process. So there is a process. And this change that we see around us, there is a process. Start, middle, end. Start, middle, end, and to restart, middle, end. It's a fixed system. It's a fixed system, meaning you can't add anything to it and you can't take anything away from it. It will always remain as it is, a fixed system of energy. So knowing this helps us develop a level of trust within our own space of knowing, yes, change can only be observed if you yourself are not changing. And when I speak about the you, I'm not speaking about the ego here. I'm here speaking about your awareness and your consciousness. So your awareness is the one aspect about you that will never change. And the simplest proof here is, can you stop yourself having an experience? And you can only know an experience if you have awareness. So if you can't stop yourself having an experience, and even the experience of being unconscious is an experience, if you cannot stop yourself having an experience, then you know there's an element of you that is always awake, that is awake to the experience. So either you are consciously awake to it, like meaning deliberately knowing it, or unconsciously, your awareness registers at a subconscious level the change. And this change then uh, allows us to recognize that we can only observe this if we ourselves are not changing. Does that make sense? In order to see a train move, you have to be stationary. If you are moving with the train, then the chances are you will see the train or whatever it is at the same space, and you will not recognize that it's moving. So we need to recognize that there is a part of us, the unchanging part of us. This is the essence of the soul. This is your source. This is your soul. This is your awareness. Whatever you want to call it, whatever words you want to give it, this is it. That is it. That wetness. So if we see existence as an ocean, and you and I and everyone else are little waves and in this ocean, then the wetness of that water is the same. And that is your essence. That is my essence. So in recognizing change, we have to allow the ego to recognize that everything is changing. So in the, again, words of Guru Nanak asks this question: when everything is changing, jab sab chalan har, when everything is changing, who do I befriend? Who do I befriend? Who becomes my enemy and who becomes my friend when everything is changing? So attachments are to do with the desire in the mind. And the desire of the mind is to do with the egoic sense. So, how do we go towards non attachment? Makes it easier once we begin to recognize the impermanent nature of existence. To be in this world is not attachment. The presence of this world in your mind is the attachment. So Guru Nanak again describes this beautiful metaphor of the lotus. Even though we are in it, we don't have to be of it. And remember this whole thing around you is a beautiful play. It's the most beautiful play that is there to entertain you, that is there to engage you, that is there to make you whole, to be part of it. But we, in our stupidity as human beings, become so attached and greed fueled that we get attached to things which then gives off hatred and fear. And look at what we've done. We have now come to this process in which we are so scared to even live, hug each other. Those who are attached to life are freaking out. Those who are afraid of death are freaking out. But those who see the changing nature of existence take the precaution and smile at the show that's going on. So, let us now begin with our meditation. And today's focus, we are going to try and focus on two things. One is the changing nature of the present moment, and the other is the unchanging moment of our awareness. Okay? So, eyes are closed, mouth is closed. Just pull your chin in a little bit so your neck's slightly loose. And as you breathe in, bring your focus to yourself. And again, one more time. On the next breath in, bring your awareness to your body. I'll say to the body rather than your body. Bring your awareness to the body. And as you become aware of the body, try and see if you can sense the whole of the body. So you can sense where you're sitting. You can sense your feet. And then, like a triangle, you can sense your torso, your arms, all the way up to your head. The triangle. So just become aware of this sense of the body. Notice what's going on within the body, in particular if there's anything dominant, like a tightness or an itch or a pain or an ache. And then bring your focus to allow yourself to be held in that place. Notice how well you held. Notice how firm, how embedded, how present you are wherever you are. So I'm not talking about being present in the awareness, I'm just being present physically. And wherever you are, you can't be anywhere else. Allow that to be acknowledged. Now bring your focus to the sensations where you can feel your body touch the seat or the chair you're on. Begin to notice it. Notice the shape. Notice that even these sensations, very subtly, don't seem to be fixed. Now take your focus upwards Becoming aware of your hips, moving down your thighs to your knees. From your knees, move this down to your ankles. So this is your awareness. And then find it to your feet. Bring the chair or floor you're sitting on while you're held in place. And as you draw your first breath in, take your focus towards the back, towards the lower back now. And on your next breath in, middle back, next breath, shoulder blades, shoulders. And then from your shoulders, bring your focus down towards your elbows. From your elbows, move your focus down to your wrists. Coming to the palms of your hands and then the fingers. Bring your focus to the back of the neck. Pull your chin in. Notice the back of the neck stretching. Take your focus to soften. Notice the darkness. Bring your focus to your mouth. Notice the tongue. Does it feel firm or does it feel soft? Allow it to soften. Notice the sensations on the roof of your mouth, sensations on the inside of your cheeks, and just allow your face to relax. As you breathe in, become present to your body again. Notice how the body seems to be almost like a loose awareness. Perhaps you notice a particular sensation within the body, but the body as a whole is simply present as a result of your awareness. Bring your focus now to your breath. Notice how the body breathes by itself. Constant state of change. This change is a flow. Just as your breath flows in and your breath flows out, this body that you have is flowing through this time. Started off as a single cell and then ultimately return to the elements itself. The minerals will dissolve in the earth. Your breath will dissolve in the air around you. Any water within your body will evaporate and become part of the atmosphere. The fire in your body, the electricity, ebbs away. And the space that your body occupied is once again available to the environment. Bring your focus now to the chest. Notice how the chest moves in and out with the breath. Nothing is permanent. Everything is in a constant state of change. Notice how you feel. Settled, comfortable, peaceful, or unsettled, uncomfortable, unhappy, distressed. How do you feel in the present moment? Remember, this too will change. See if you can identify how the feeling exists within you right now. What feeling? Your next breath out, opening your awareness to the sounds around you. Notice that even the sounds around you are constantly changing. Notice how this grows and then fades away. Once again, follow the bell. Notice that the stillness and the silence doesn't change, but all the sounds that it contains are constantly changing. See if you can notice that. Notice the silence that contains all the sounds. The sounds are always present, unchanging. Gently bring your focus just beneath your nose. Draw a deep breath in, hold that breath, and relax. Your commitment now is to hold your focus just beneath your nose. Allow the breath to breathe by itself. Stay with your breath. Notice how the breath begins to move in, stops. There's a tiny little gap, and the breath goes out. Stop, and it comes back in. See if you can notice these four parts of your breath. The in-breath that comes in, the tiny little pause, and the out-breath that goes out, and the tiny little pause. Allow the breath to breathe by itself. Breath, is constantly changing, and how the out breath is constant. Neither the in breath is permanent, constantly changing. Now bring your focus to your out breath and notice that little gap at the end. Follow the breath all the way till the notice the breath stops for the in breath to begin. Allow your body to relax, to let go. Nothing to non-attachment is freedom. Now bring your focus to how the breath feels. And as you watch your breath, at times your breath may be long, at times it may be short, constantly changing. Does your breath feel cold or does it feel warm? When the in breath begins, is it the same temperature when it's in the middle and at the end? And when the out breath begins, is it the same temperature at the start, middle, and end? See if we can notice that. Change. Now bring your focus to the sound of your breath. Does the in breath sound the same at the start, middle, and end? Does the out breath sound the same at the start, middle, and end? Stay with your breath. Notice that the one that's watching the change doesn't appear to change itself. The observer, the witness, the awareness is that objects of awareness are changing. Listen to your breath. You can hear the change in the sound. If you observe your breath, you can observe the change from the start of the in breath to its end, and the same for the out breath. While everything is changing, you appear to be unchanging. Your awareness appears to be unchanging. On your next breath out, just expand your awareness enough so you become aware of your body as best as you can. Just sense your body, and this body that you are aware of, the heart is beating right now, the blood is flowing through it, all the cells are working, constant change, a community of change, all knowing what it needs to do. No one needs to tell your cell what to do. And this body that you have is your source of creativity, for it is creativity. And what a wonderful creation. It is conscious and it is flowing through the present moment, sailing through the present moment, like all other objects in this existence, like everyone else. Every single material object on existence is following the same pattern, flowing, and the flow is change. The flow is change like a wave. Comes up, takes form, and merges back. On your next breath out, open your awareness, begin to listen to things around you. And again, recognizing the changing nature of sound around you. Listening. Give yourself permission to let go and follow the sound of this bell to merge in the silence. Once again, following the bell, allowing yourself to merge in the silence from where you can observe the changing sound. And one last time, allow yourself to experience the stillness at the end of the bell. Notice your experience. Notice that as you have awareness of stillness, silence, peace, tranquility, that all around you is constantly changing, yet you are still silent, embedded in the ocean of awareness. That ocean of awareness is divinity itself. It's the source, as you are, an emergence of that source. You, me, and everything else are simply a constant state of change that is aware of itself. To be aware is to be in the world but not of it. For the world is nothing more than dramas in a dream. Know your sacred space. Bring your focus gently back to your body. Acknowledge your experience. Appreciate the fact that you've taken time to look after yourself and to touch the source, your act of devotion. When you hear the next bell, use this bell to come back to your breath. Draw a few deep breaths in. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Take your time. Thank you very much for joining us. Be blessed, be happy, be healthy, be peaceful, be safe. Know that you're looked after. Be of the world, but not be in the world, but not of it. Know that this changing existence is nothing more than a show. And like with any good show, we enjoy it and then we go back home. And home is your source, home is your essence, home is your divinity. We hope you've enjoyed this. Please join us again. Thank you very much. Vaheguru Ji Ka